Lost Legion. Allah is the fact treatment nature. Now I have to put this online before I even finish my book, greatest book. I'm going to put the magic in it. Not magic. I'm going to put Positive's full identity in it now to show how all modern nations, through sciences, were conceived as a bridged fact treatment nature, as a criminal insidiousness nature together, as fact treatment justifications, as Oz, unrealized, as fake identities each nation, as a bridged fact treatment, quality of fact treatment, quality of diffusion. The original ancients understood that Allah by science before the need for religion, and as a counter-insidiousness nature, forced not by their books, but by by fact treatment nature, through campuses, through sciences, fake sides each nation, internation, pseudo sophistication. And now, with that, and as that, our passions commonly defended out of sequence, relying upon justifications of bridge fact treatment styles, needing to idolize delusion premises, criminal internation persuasions of natures and of methods recorded but not let charged, because we don't have sophistication with all nations shared, for example, to convictions regarding business and regarding means and regarding original forsaken torture rolls. These are not standards. With Hartford, Connecticut, with any city, New Haven, throughout Connecticut, throughout Rhode Island, throughout Boston, even where there's money, abridged fact treatment natures, still yet enslaved fact treatment natures, rolls with that. Comparison natures, incapable of understanding and explaining the identity of criminal insidiousness nature that's shared and it's needed counter, but speaking anyways for religion, which is about this, together, as what preserved, as science counters to what was forced, the fact treatment natures were given the religions, kept it through them, so they kept it abridged, and they keep that worse than entertained, in multi-front, and fake peace, and the nations, the religions aren't fighting. People in the names of the religions are fighting. The Quran warns of this. The Quran gives any believer or any unbeliever the right to stand up and not to pray if they don't agree with something that's not positive all ways. In other words, we're going to have in the beginning of the Quran, before any of the controversial parts. See, this is instead of attaching the past and real life science to the Quran and the sequence nature, commonly they attach it to scholarship. And keep fights going in relation to the extortion of the fact treatment natures of all modern leaders, even kings. And that's all areas. Forced fact treatment natures in relationship to hundreds and hundreds of nations, not just hundreds of nations, fighting to pretend they're not abridged, because that's the way they were all raised into science. Only realized through tactically interior from natural value nature systems. So Allah is the fact treatment nature too, to teach about identity, which is needed to teach what is shared by each cell, each organ, everything of our body. Then the systems, everything. Positive onto itself one way, negative another. And what is positive onto itself, positive, its identity and engineering, Allah's name is used to reveal this, as a forever nature in juxtaposition through the phenomena of temporary value nature, and as the value of temporary value nature with life, in diffusion through it. Immediate space nature's the phenomenon of its overall, not comparison nature to the rest of space, but value to it. And because that value is not let lead to 5Ds. We are an identity now of nations as in a species that is negative unto itself, as the phenomenon of forever nature positive in diffusion through us, as the quality of three natures of that at once. The one that will never change, inherent to as a relationship between the nature of consciousness, which is only semi-positive, temporary positive towards negative value nature, or positive in another way, and through correlation it changes with the only overall systems demonstration to us. Ancients could not believe that for future humanity could forget the means to cause positive value nature progressions that cause evolution, and or to forget what would cause negative value nature progressions, de-evolution. What they did, organized crime, proofs of this, recorded, and watch how it's recorded. They made the narratives engineered back then, in the ancient time, the semi-ancient times, of pantheism being about multiple gods, because they knew that they would have to progressively obfuscate each of the sciences, and what we did archetypal criminal enterprise, engineered all tactically areas of nations, and then all nations to roles as a criminal insidiousness nature, lie progression, cover-up natures, blaming on other things, not other people, to all areas of all modern nations. And this was cultivated, roles with this, as standing lie progression, cover-up natures engineered, them not understanding themselves as predatory comparison natures, predatory sophistication only let through now criminally re-engineered internation sciences, Campus Marcius. So now they had agencies that are roles with and as breaching nature, but pretending fake identities as trained, uncharged. Like with Americans, with the colonies, with the extortion of our founders, left forced glorified, uncharged. With them left forced to the tactical theater and to the tactical lies with their language, because they had to hide their roles with the Constitutional Convention even after it. So they had to hide that by staying theater and by staying lies that were forced by criminal database relationships internation. So not only was England extorted by what was also England's name, but it was bigger than England. Spain was extorted by what was bigger than Spain. France was extorted by what was bigger than France. At the same time, that was extorting itself. At the same time, those all natures were engineered like that as Oz, as fact treatment nature predators, by the most insidious, the devil. The archetypal criminal enterprise, cultivating to only let realize stewardships, and to only let realize areas, fact treatment natures bottom up, and so top down with the nations, states of them, and in all areas, forcing abridged fact treatment natures entertained by chiefs. And at the same time, because of the forced markets positions, forced entrenched hundreds of nations with forced shared policing of markets and not giving up each other's positions. Also, because of how that was, the logic with that was criminally influenced originally and progressed. That's also in relationship to the uncharged, and to the forced glorification of our founders' extortion, of northern roles with slavery, of agencies' roles, internation, all of them, with the fact treatment nature tricks with this, as breaching tools in natures as Oz. Fake sophistications only let realized, putting black and white into the law to keep this perpetually blamed on others. Same thing, the same crime method that put fact treatment natures, pretending that pantheism was about many gods. But before that, they revealed that there's one nature shared, one value nature system. Identity is, so this is science, because we know identity is a value shared by all natures, by all bodies of value in our body, all cells. They share not just the sequence nature, they share. So to understand this, and then to talk about it on the Z, A through Z. English is revealed to teach this. And see my video with the course. This is about to teach about how we are a quality diffusion as life. And so this is the predicate value is always positive relationship to itself, inherently, actively, and progressively with English. The predicate act, the predicate value stays that, but it's as a temporary identity, it stays inherently, actively, and progressively negative value nature. See, so to understand temporary identity, we must understand space's identity. And Allah's name was revealed as by science. And this is being obfuscated because there's an organized crime method that has each of the religions defended as what they're not. And not letting it demonstrated how they're about that. So they're keeping them only realized, justified to lies people tell to themselves and to others, as only realized, trained, abridged fact treatment natures. And so as cover-up, lie progression cover-up natures of that formally in tall areas, roles with database crimes, evidences crimes, totally against the meaning of all the surface values of the Constitution, and against what they pretend the substatutes mean. That's how messed up the substatutes are. These are crime methods against. I'm not even a lawyer. I'm not a criminal. We're going to see English. I'm an expert on English grammar, and so in predicate value. So identity of value. So identity of these of value. Everything in English grammar is about space nature. Everything in space is about space nature. It's about its shared identity, value nature system one. It works not through these ulterior from natural value nature systems. So you see the armies of nations strong. But think about it. Because their way to peace is through a negative, through an as a nature that can't, they only can reach for peace. They can't reach for the evolution. Each of the sciences are criminally re-engineered fact-shaping natures. Evolution is caused by understanding that nations are correlation stations, needing to identify what is positive identity, also positive onto itself. Staying that identity causes clear means realized. These are not. We're still in colonization's forced infrastructure, with the forced, glorified, and uncharged extensive nature of the fact treatment nature slavery of our founders and of the colonists, not just people with pigment, and so we're going to get the fact treatment about black and white, that's a cultivation of fact treatment nature. It's only capable then of being entertaining convictions as a criminal and citizen's nature that was conscious, and this was in relationship to how they keep the natures of our stewards, especially with probate courts, criminally influenced with all areas, originally, then through the sciences, and then so through businesses too. You can't blame bankers because in other words, that's for the proofs too that in the relationship to bankers and stuff like that. It's in relationship to investments with unions. Money goes into locals, nationals, and internationals, and then they have to keep investigating that money and stuff like that. And they have, you know, what agencies, what nature of agencies we have never had the integrity to do that. And then we have job sites with internation families and all that juxtaposed, especially with like internation shipping, because they have shared policing, the shared relationship to natures of database, illusion stacking, in conjunction with formal, as semi-formal and completely formal interbranch illusion stacking, military illusion stacking. We have a breached military originally state because our in relationship to forced expert lean, way worse than groupthink. Couldn't even stand up to lean. And CT is cherry tree, cipher applies, see whites of eyes. These are not means. So, this is also in relationship to the negative nature of positive. We're going to teach about this that's why it goes GJPQY. Got it. And then this one letter above that was each side 5, and then it goes 7. Body diffuses freedom's high kindness, longing tell. And then above that, there's one sticking above that on each side of the numbers of the letters that go stay lowercase. In other words, 5 letters that go below the line as lowercase letters. 7 letters that come above the line as lowercase letters. And then 9 that are just regular size. But then we come to except for the 5 at the end, starting with V, we're to teach about victory, because victory is here, but it's also there too at the same time. Because the identity of space as positive, and that it's positive or negative relationship to itself, which only stays positive, except for the phenomenon of temporary value nature, except for the phenomenon of the quality of diffusion, which if it doesn't stay positive to itself here, as our identity, individually, as groups, and top down all together, then that's forced away, Leith of Hades. It's forced but to stay positive to its positive progression somewhere else, inherently, actively, and progressively needing to stay positive value to itself, greater and greater, space's identity. So this is also we're going to teach about, you can't learn English properly. In other words, we are correlation nature. Correlative conjunction is trying to define what's positive from what's not. In other words, A or B. If this, then that. So A or B. We'll examine this with my book too. I'm almost finished my book. I'm going to finish my book now. This is the Allah. The top, when we are, that's identity. The top of the Z shows what brings the nature of itself, progressive value to itself here. Clear means. And when we're not this identity, Leith of Hades, it being forced away. The bottom of the Z is symbolic of this, forced away. So we must be the top of the Z here. We must keep that as the value of matter. There's the bond to matter, the temporary bond to matter will only stay positive onto itself. Leith of Hades. So any real leader of military, which they're victims of campuses that didn't leave them the means to explain and to set up counters to the nature of business that was and is a BS fake side together, a standing criminal insidiousness nature. And this is in relationship to the religions we're talking about together. Allah and with the Old Testament in relationship to there's Adam is the subject, Eve is the verb. This is the cipher. This is going to show about the predicate value. In the predicate act, remember, a predicate act is caused by caused by the natures with criminal enterprises. In progression, progressively, inherently, actively, and progressively negative value nature onto positives self as an identity of value, so it pushes it away from here as negative value nature, lead the 5 Ds. So the religions were, in other words, when people attack, no one knows how to stand up for these religions because because of how they're glorifying sciences that, for example, glorifying the forced extortion, the forced fact, cheating nature, slavery of our founders, and that is out. And there are people in cities throughout this world that know they have no legal representation, and they're worse to not have let schools consciously not letting them understand how to do it because of their relationship to areas maintained, original, progressed. Psychological delusion propagations in criminal natures with medical corruption, all kinds of stuff like that, tied to the formal interbranch, intermilitary, internation, into prison, all these industries. But with doctors, with them really sick, and you can't get response because you all free speech is a bridge. They pretend they don't know what you're talking about because while they're stacking databases with illusions, with areas, witness fabrications, and all kinds of things no one ever they normally don't talk about because the way they internation families demonstrate, they have a bridge like to these with these criminal enterprise undercover natures with them. That's how they have natures capable of justifying behind the scenes their roles, recorded with connections between child predators and with unrealized but recorded proofs of not just intercampus, all natures of campus, intercampus, even with the elderly homes too. These are not means. At the same time, with a fact treatment racket that is consciously with that at the same time as what's keeping real lack of means on for everyone and for especially for urban areas the most through time, cultivating it blamed on other, exploiting it, worse than that. So we're going to need an app, and the nation needs it anyway. So we'll just have the nation own it. You know what I'm saying? We need we need things for Hartford. So we need organization. See, they're making pseudo organizations. Then you defend that. You defend movements that are abridged fact treatment nature movements. Then you're defending abridged fact treatment nature. So then when positive identity as truth, that's not used for a lie or used to cover up lies, because we have that's what's happening. We have the reaction natures only that realized as victim predators, and every nation has the same fake identity, and that progressions with that are real threats with real all kinds of natures that wouldn't be this nature if we took over the campus. In other words, everyone's fact treatment nature wouldn't be so insidious, all levels together, and we have to address it. What communications? So that's one reason. So criminal insidiousness, we have to address this nature and how it was blamed on by our agencies too, which is not hard to do. What makes it hard to do is a nature of criminality with database illusion stacking with no means to report it. With area crimes tied to them covering that up. No means to them to report that. What they're doing is hiding what they are together because of what cultivated them, needing to cover up lies against whatever, they keep each groupthink, each age of fact treatment nature tactically, and progressively so. One way we'll know. And that's through correlation. That's by understanding the radical of correlation. That is the nature of positive relationship to itself here, or not, yin-yang. Yin-yang is present or not as clear value. How to teach about clear value without showing it, painting of what it's doing, as making change as change. But by what? By the identity that is of an integrity that can't come through here, but through the relationship as a correlation nature, as the value of correlation nature. So it's not only that we're a correlation nature, the predicate, not the predicate, or the predicate's relationship to itself as identity. As the identity is, there is the value to any identity, no matter where it is, space. And when it's not, we're pushed from here, lethal IDs. We gotta come back from space, NASA. We have to check how you're being smart is ill, and how you're being wise is ill. You must understand Trinity, and what it means in relationship to the nature of positive, the engineering of itself onto itself inherently, actively, and progressively. We must understand humor, its relationship to an as a criminal insidious nature as engineered to be self-reliant roles, incapable of but of being victim predator when people need to be true and real and multi-front. Since founding, we're examining how colonists didn't have the right and how they would just stack database lies about them. They tried to demonstrate all the roles with the North and the South multi-front against our founders with breaching front roles, blaming our other, not letting the Constitution true, abridging fact-cheaping natures, with roles with claiming conspiracies in relationship to database illusion stacking, to give them the right to the means to do that without